Welcome to MarketVibes.ai weekly update. It's been 10, 11 days. Just wanted to give a quick update on the portfolio as well as how things are rolling. Nothing here is financial advice. I'm just using MarketVibes.ai to make my own investment decisions. You do you. Okay, so going to the homepage, I can see still pretty much crypto and US markets showing green. Nothing has changed literally in last 11 years, although we saw a lot of volatility in US markets as well as in crypto as well. However, MarketVibes.ai is still bullish, and this is what we're going to talk about. I've been asked questions that there's volatility, why it's not showing red, and things like that. The only thing Market Vibes is seeing is Indian markets have been a little bit choppy. It's showing like green and red. And this could be because the direction of the market is becoming a little bit indecisive and, it's trying to protect your money. So we're going to talk about that as well. So I want to take like the biggest example here is Ethereum. The biggest trade we have is Ethereum as well. So in Ethereum, last week there was quite a bit of volatility. There was a dip of around 10, 15%. We can check here. Uh, so if I put this up, wait, let's just clear this. Uh, so yeah, around 17%, it was a decent 15%, 15, 70% of dip, right? And you might say like, well, that's a big dip. Why didn't it show red? But in previous videos we have discussed about this. Market Vibes RDI is not for day trading. It's more for long-term trends. So overall, since the big flash of green, this has been straight up reversal. And we talked about this. I call it like spring effect. It's like trying to go lower, can't, trying to go lower, can't, and it's getting resisted around 4,000 range, right? Then it actually even went lower, right? And people would think like this is like done deal, right? That this is dusted, needs to like, go under 1,000 or whatever, right? And that's when things reverse. This is how market makers take everyone's money on both sides, right? But we detected here like a real undervalued zone. And except this couple of days of red, it's been straight up, right? In fact, we started first buying around here, and we had a 15% loss here, overall on the portfolio. And that's what I'm trying to say. MarketVibes.ai is not here for you to consistently every make month make money. It's here to find a really solid trend to multiply your portfolio in certain time period. But a majority of the time, it's going to try to protect your money, So for example, here it will try to protect your money. Here, it will try to protect your money because we are in the downtrend, right? But here, it's only focused on making money, except here when it looked like maybe we come and revisit this zone, right? So this is what's happening with Ethereum. I can give you like a little bit of, sort of, big picture on a weekly time frame. So what's happening is this was the critical level that it broke out. And then we are staying above it, which is amazing. Like you need to like, stay above this level. This is like perfect technical setup to go higher. And what's happening is overall in a since 2021 to 2025, 4 years time frame, you are hitting the all-time high resistance, which is around, 48, $4,900, right? So now once it penetrates that, it's been 4 years, it generally means it wants to go a lot higher. But this is where it gets tricky because everyone is going to put big numbers and stuff like that. Once we are in overvalued zone, I consider this overvalued zone. This is not undervalued. Undervalued was here, right? It could keep going higher to keep people confused. But any big event globally that can impact the markets, these are the things that first also roll back. This is why we don't trade with emotions. We trade with AI. We trade with something that has processed all those information for us, which is, why we are using MarketVibes.ai. So now I'm waiting for like red here, basically to get out of the trades, but it's not time yet. So we are just waiting, right? Um, Bitcoin is similar way. It's been trying to like be choppy around, above like the previous resistance level, and it is fine. I think Bitcoin had an amazing run. It may just chill out and just let other stuff run, like Ethereum and other crypto stuff. But we also have a Bitcoin position. It's still showing green, so we haven't exited it from that either. Other markets, we have two positions in Dow Jones and US small cap. We added one small trade of around $700 for Dow Jones because I'll show you why. If I go here, US indexes. Okay, so in Dow Jones, the way I see it is this is a resistance. It's was flirting around here to penetrate this resistance since almost a year and a half, right? Not actually not a year and a half, but like around it's going to be about to be a year in November, right? So let's say 10 months, it's trying to penetrate this resistance, and eventually it has broken out, and it actually weekly closed above, which is like bullish. So this wants to continue going higher, and we have seen this happening in Nasdaq and S&P 500 both, right? They broke the previous resistance and they're continuing trying to go higher, right? So Dow Jones may follow as well, right? Russell, as I've said, like in other videos, this is the biggest bet because it's 4 years of, sort of like consolidation in this range. And eventually this will break out with the rate cuts and so on, right? So last week on Friday, the whole following the rate cuts, is basically pushing everything higher, right? But the good news is, if you're using MarketVibes.ai, you will not be emotional about this and that. It was already priced in. If things change, this would have start turning red potentially if there was a big drop, but it hasn't been. So things look still, in upward direction. And obviously, when you use MarketVibes.ai, you basically wait for the red color for things to change. Yeah. And let's go to the portfolio now. So portfolio obviously doing great. We reached 50% in 2.5 months. These are still unrealized. So, I never get too excited until we realize the profits. But this is terrific because, we have like 2.5 months of, using MarketVibes.ai. The first trade was around, as you can see on, 8th, 9th of June. So it's been around 2.5 months of using MarketVibes.ai as around the Israel Iran war conflict issues. We had a big drop of around, I think the biggest was around 14%, right? But since then we have recovered. As you can see, there's volatility, and this is always going to be there. The reason behind that because Ethereum has been now our big gainer, 242% is a lot in 2.5 months. This has been the biggest trade. As I mentioned, eventually, once I exit from Ethereum, I want to go into the stable stuff. Once you make money, you should be going to the stable stuff. Once things collapse, so for example, if any event happens and we start seeing on MarketVibes.ai, in any of those assets like a score of 100, that's when I would try to go heavy in, some of those assets and then play around because that basically means you have a higher upside, right? So this was around 1500 and we reached 4500. And as we are using 2x ETFs, this is going to be like, an important thing as well. The other thing I want to talk about is, briefly, some people have asked, like, so, sort of like common sense question, which is like, well, you're only showing indexes, but how to use it, right? So in any of this, let's call the Bitcoin and Ethereum as like an index, right? You can use the spot Ethereum, spot Bitcoin. There are ETFs in US markets which behave as the underlying, index Bitcoin, Ethereum. You can also use 2x ETFs, which is what we are doing on our portfolio. So ETH and BTCL are 2x ETF. That basically means if Bitcoin goes up 5%, BTCL goes up 10%. If Bitcoin goes down 5%, BTCL goes down 10%. So there is risk, but because we are using, solid AI, I'm more confident to go into X ETF to prove a point. And all of our ETFs are 2x ETFs here. So technically, this is a leverage position, which is risky if you don't know what you're doing. And it's amazing if you have a tool like MarketVibes.ai because it can multiply your returns, right? Um, we have seen this in historical simulators. So one of the best example I have is Russell. Uh, if you invested for past 3 years in Russell, you only made 23%, which is like nothing, right? But if you use 2x ETF, that's like 3x your portfolio. You are in an index and you're three times your returns right now using Market Vibes REI because it understands volatility and it makes sure that you get out at the right times. It makes sure you get in at the right times. And in the choppy period, it will try to protect your capital as much as possible. It's not easy, by the way. Again, we can go back to the example of, Ethereum here. Um, you know, I said like we got around here, and you can also see like the score was quite nice, 95 around this area as well, right? Then it kind of like slowed down. There was like a breakout here, and it looked very convincing, but no, it actually started going down, right? So my point is, this kind of volatility will happen. Sometimes your portfolio will also show negative, but that's okay because if you go to the historical return simulator, you can actually put 3 to 5 years. That's what I try to do whenever it's 3 to 5 years. That's when the returns are killers because there will be or two trends it will pick up, which will multiply your returns. And most of the bad times, it's just protecting your returns, if that makes sense, right? So everything looks great. Pretty happy with 50% up. Let's see how markets behave. We go into the tricky euphoria zone, so no one basically knows. But anything that bad happens in like the global markets, there's a high chance of things reversing pretty easily because everything is just going straight up, at least in terms of American markets, right? You can just see there's not been a single red in in Nasdaq. Not a single red. It's just straight going up. I think it's the same in uh, Russell as well. Let's see. Okay, there was a couple of red dots here and there, but pretty much we are still just keep going up, right? So this is where it gets a little bit tricky because we're just going up for a long time, and now comes a time when things could cool off a bit. And look, volatility is your best friend, so like this is why like using market vibes is amazing. Even if it's overvalued, you don't care if it shows green, you get in, you wait for the red. Obviously, if you came, investing at really later time of, like a very big uptrend, immediately not going to go see the results. But as I said, 3 years, that's like sort of time frame that I look for to get, interesting results on leverage positions. We are using leverage positions because, we have confidence in the software and so on. That's it. I think if there are any questions, feel free to comment on the video. I'll post a Twitter link as well. I'll see you guys next week.